How we doing today, neighbors? Ian with eTrailer here, and today we're going to be taking a look at and then installing the eTrailer 2-inch by 2-inch receiver on our 2021 Jeep Compass. Let's get into a couple features of that and then the install. Now, the Jeep Compass is already known as a very reliable, comfortable 4x4 that's going to take you out to those campsites or any trails that you may want to get out to, and not having a hitch on the back of it is going to limit you to just your roof and the capacity space you have in the back of the vehicle. Adding that hitch is going to open up to cargo carriers, bike racks, or even a small towable possibly. And while mentioning capacities, we are running at 4,000 pounds total for the towing capacity of this hitch and 600 pounds on that tongue weight. Now, of course, you would want to refer back to the owner's manual of your vehicle, so that way you can make sure that number on the rating is not lower, and if it is lower, go with that lower rated number. This will feature a matte black finish on it with that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver, taking a 5/8 inch pin, and it does not come with the kit, so you will want to look at our options on the website when placing your order to include those nice locking options to keep your accessory or trailer safe. And then I really do like this hitch as far as these safety chain loops. They are nice and accessible, and regardless of what type of safety chain retainer you have, they're going to work fantastically. And a couple measurements to keep in mind for the shank of your accessory or your towable possibly. If you're looking for that clearance, we're going to go from the center of the hitch pin hole out to the edge of the bumper, and we're looking at 4 inches there. So if you've got any folding accessories, that'll kind of give you an idea of how far that's going to be in and if it's going to make contact with the rear of the vehicle. And another measurement to keep in mind, from the ground to the inside of that receiver tube at the top, we're looking just below 15 inches. I wouldn't say the install of this one is all that bad. It is a little bit involved as far as drilling some holes for us to be able to fish wire some hardware up into the frame, and that's about as hard as it's going to get. I'm going to walk you through that entire process, but if you happen to watch the video and think to yourself, I don't want to try to tackle that, please do check out our dealer locator on the website. We'd be happy to help find a trained professional in your area to get this taken care of. But for all those DIYers, let's go ahead and hop into that install and I'll get you through the process. Underneath the rear of the vehicle here, we're going to start with 2 T30 screws that are holding on the fascia, so we'll just drop those out. We are going to be lowering the exhaust. That's going to be both sides of our muffler. There is a 13mm bolt on the exhaust hanger that we're going to pull loose. But before we do so, we do want to make sure we've got some way to support the exhaust system to avoid any damage. Make sure that's good and secure, and remove both of those bolts on the hangers. Now we can come back to the strap, or however we're holding that up, and just loosen it enough to where we'll be able to slide the hitch up onto the rails of the vehicle. Now we're going to be removing the heat shield above the muffler here. We do need to remove 3 11mm nuts. The first one is at the rear of the vehicle, and then in front of the muffler we've got 2 that hold that up as well. Now we can pull that heat shield out if we need to. We may have to lower the muffler just a little bit more here. Make sure you've got good support on that when you loosen up your strap. We will need to trim this heat shield down, and the best way to do so is, you've got a large section that's all just rectangular. We're going to start at the bends where it tapers in, and we'll cut all that off straight across on both sides. Do suggest either a pair of tin snips or maybe a cutting wheel on a grinder would work as well. With that trimmed, we can put it back in the position it was in, returning the 3 11mm nuts into place and getting those tightened back down. On the bottom of each side of the frame rail, and we will be repeating anything we do to the driver's side that I'm going to be showing will be the exact same as the passenger side unless otherwise noted, so I wanted to make sure that was well known. We're going to be identifying 3 covers that are just little plastic, like almost a sticker cover. So there's going to be 1 on the bottom and then 2 on the side of the frame rail. And to remove those, you can just push a screwdriver through them, or in my case, I'm going to be using a pick here. Get that started, and then pry it away. And then you can pull that whole sticker off. We're going to do that on all 3 of the holes that were identified. Now the rearmost hole that's on the bottom of the frame that we uncovered is where we're going to be feeding these 2 pieces of hardware through along with that fish wire, and it is not large enough to get through, so you do have the option there of either grinding that out or taking a step bit, something along those lines to widen that out. We will need to be able to fish both of these through, and they can be done one at a time. The head of the bolt is going to be wider than the plate, so just keep that in mind, and it's going to be easier to be able to get this up first and then go from there. So we'll just go ahead, grind that out, and then I'll show you what the hole will look like once it's clear. And with that hole opened up, we can slip not only the plates through, but the head of the bolt as well. So now we can take the fish wires that we get with the kit, unwind those, and you won't want to put a hook at the end that doesn't have the coil on it. That's just going to help keep it in the hitch when we go to put the hitch in place. And those 2 holes on the outside, we're going to start with the furthest one away, feeding our coiled in towards the hole that we've created. And we need to pull that through. And then we can take our spacer plate, run that over the coil, put on the bolt onto that threading, and then we'll push our plate up first. And then follow that up with our carriage bolt, pulling slightly on the wire just to help guide that through. And then for now, we're going to pull it through, but push it right back in. We just want to make sure it all lines up well. We've got our first one. We're going to repeat that same process on the other hole that's on the side of the frame rail, and then I'll show you what to do with the rearmost one. Unlike the 2 we did on the side, this last hole that we're going to be putting a carriage bolt into, we're going to feed on the plate and then the bolt and once that's on, we'll push up the bolt first, followed by the plate, and we can pull both of those back down and through the hole. Now we can lift the hitch into place. You are going to want a second pair of hands for this. I've got Brad here helping me. So we're going to go up above the muffler, grabbing our fish wires and feeding those through the inside of the hitch. Just make sure you've got the right one going to the rear hole. Just once we get this up, can make it a little difficult to adjust. And then our very front one's going to go through the inside downwards. And last but not least, we've got our middle also going through the inside there. So push that up. Now you will find that you'll have to drop the muffler pretty far to be able to clear. And then these tabs for the fascia are going to be in the way. The cross tube is going to be up behind the fascia. And so the best thing to do is just shove those as far back towards the heat shield as you can, just to give you enough room to slide that up between the fascia and all that. And then all we're going to start as far as hardware is just that rearmost nut over the bolt. So do be careful when you're pulling the fish wires off to hang on to those bolts, because if they fall back in the frame, you've got a whole nother problem and everything's coming back apart. So hang on to those, just get the back one started for now, and we're gonna turn our attention here to the fascia. Now we will need to trim just the end edge of the fascia. So if you push that up into place, you can see where it's making contact with this rear bracket. We're going to start on the outside of each edge of the bracket, just giving that a good cut either with the tin snips that we use to trim up the heat shield, or you can use a multi-tool, which we'll be using just to trim out the front edge here, and I'll show you how to do that once we've got this cut open. Then we can come back with something and cut across just to start working out how much we need to on our fascia. We can always come back with the straight razor and clean up all of our edges here. We can just lift that up, see if that's going to work. Looks like it will. If we needed to, we could always trim more away. Now we can push the hitch up into place and put on the remaining hardware. Just going to go finger tight with those for now. That way if we need to adjust left or right, we're still able to do so. And again, we're going to go just finger tight with these for now. We're going to come back with the torque wrench and get them all torqued to the spec shown. But I wanted to show how that should look once we're up there. We're going to work on centering this up just as best as possible before we torque it down. Again, make sure your cut's good enough that once we push the fascia tabs back into place, we're still able to get that hardware where it needs to be on each side of the fascia here. Now we'll come back through with that torque wrench and torque that to that specification shown in the instruction manual. I will say if you do not have a torque wrench, you can either get one along with your order from us, or you can run down to that local parts store and be able to pick one up as a rental there. With all that torqued, we're almost ready to put the exhaust hangers back into place, but we do have these two small tabs that are on each exhaust hanger. You can either cut those off, or in our case, we're just going to bend them out of the way. They used to wrap around the frame. It is not going to be the same with that hitch in place. So we just want to make sure those are going to be out of the way when we go to put that back up. Now they do provide hardware to be able to put those hangers back into place. You'll just want to take the conical tooth washer with the teeth facing towards the hitch and then slide that over our bolt. That bolt will then run through the exhaust bracket and push it back up into place and get that hand started. And we'll tighten that up. And that's going to do for our look at and installation of the etrailer 2" by 2" hitch on our 2021 Jeep Compass. My name's Ian with etrailer, and I appreciate you watching.